Joining me now is a musician who we all fell in love with after hearing his debut album Between the Minds back in 2007. Since then, he's been creating album after album, performing tour after tour, and he's here today to talk about his sixth record, Singing to Strangers. It's Jack Savoretti. Hi, Jack.
How are you doing, man?
A great title for an album, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Where does that come from?
It actually came from a conversation my daughter was having with a friend of hers. I just got back from this kind of long tour. I was playing all these amazing classical theaters in Italy and everything. So I was kind of flying above ground. I was getting a little bit too big for my own boots. And I got home and my daughter was playing in the bedroom with a friend of hers, and I had just given her these little sort of dolls that everybody's crazy about now. I heard her friend say to her, "What does your dad do exactly that he keeps coming and going and bringing you all these cool gifts?" And I was expecting my daughter to come up with this very triumphant answer and very sort of proud answer. Instead she said, "I don't know, he goes around the world singing to strangers." Yeah, that's exactly how I reacted.
How old's your daughter?
She's 7, and she sort of put me in my place.
But she needs royalties for that.
She does need royalties. She actually helped me write some of the songs on the album. She was my editor throughout the making of the album. She helped me write some of the lyrics, so she was a big inspiration for this album.
But this is your first album that's gone number one, man.
Number one. It's taken 6 albums.
Isn't that a good career trajectory, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Rather than the other way.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. It is. It's quite daunting. I've never really put too much importance or weight on chart positions or anything like that. It feels like the first time I can actually give something to the people I work with, to my band, to my production, to my management, to my label, to everybody who's taken tremendous time out of their lives to help me fulfill a little idea that's grown into this. It's very nice, rather than me trying to convince them that I'm not crazy and that they're not mad for doing this.
I'm struggling to place the accent, Jack.
So am I. So am I, man. It's an identity crisis, a continuous identity crisis.
So what's your background?
All right.
It's obviously Italian.
What are my ingredients? The Jack Savoretti recipe is, I was born in London, actually. I was born in Parsons Green. I was born in Fulham. But I left when I was about 7. I moved to Switzerland. I went to an American school pretty much my whole life. I moved to America for a bit when I was about 17, 18. I came back to London. But my family is Italian. My dad is Italian, hence the name Savoretti. My house has always been filled with accents. My mother's mother was German, so we always had German accents, Italian accents. It does change depending who I'm talking to. If I talk to my mom, I sound like Oliver Twist because she's very English. If I talk to my dad, I sound like Super Mario. Not to throw some typical cultural cliches out there, but yeah, I do kind of fall into that trap.
Isn't what got you started in music? Is it true that you started out as a poet?
I mean,
I started out as a poet. You know?
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm scared of the word poet. I feel like the word poet carries a lot of responsibility and weight to it, and I cannot at all give myself that sort of crown of I used to be a poet. I wish I used to be a poet, and I would love to be a poet. I still try to consider myself a poet. I'd like to be remembered for it.
Well, songs are just poems set to music.
Totally. I think music is just another lyric, in another word. It can add weight to a lyric. You can turn the most simplistic, I want to hold your hand, is a pretty simple thing to say. But when it's sung the way it's sung by John and Paul with that melody, it suddenly has a whole new meaning to it. It can change the meaning of a word, a melody.
This is your 6th album. Is it difficult to constantly come up with fresh and new ideas, or are you constantly writing? Have you got little notebooks and you're constantly writing things down?
I don't write anything down anymore. I stopped doing that about sort of 3 albums ago because it became really frustrating, because I was finding that, like, especially when I was on tour, I would start writing something and then I wouldn't have time to finish it. It was like I was sort of losing all these little ideas, these breadcrumbs of ideas along the way. And then when I got sort of home and got time to myself, I felt like the tank was empty because I had sort of left all these little ideas scattered around. So I decided to stop doing that and just bottle it all up, which probably isn't very healthy for me, but I do it and it seems to be working out now creatively, at least, maybe not in my personal life or my private life. But I bottle it all up and then I wait to sort of get somewhere where I am in a good state of mind and alone and have time, and then I just sort of let it all out. So yeah, I don't know if there's pressure about coming up. I've never tried to come up with anything fresh or new. I mean, we made this album in Rome, in a studio that belonged to one of the greatest composers of all time, Ennio Morricone.
Did you meet him? Was he there?
No, I didn't meet him because he hasn't been in the studio, I think, for many years. He's sort of been doing other stuff. He's been touring mainly. I wanted to bring back a sound that I think has been lost, this romantic European sound from the 60s and 70s. I've never been the kind of person who's trying to reinvent the wheel.
You work with some superstars.
Yeah, we've got some crazy names in this album.
I know. I mean, you've got some real career highlights. I mean, you worked with Bob Dylan on this, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a co-write on here with Bob.
Were you in the same room writing together?
No, we've never met. We're pen pals. I like to call him my pen pal. He probably has no idea I even exist. He's just sending this random kid out in England some lyrics. I got sent these 2 poems. One of them was incredibly obscure and really vague, and I couldn't really get my head around it. And the other was this poem called Touchy Situation. And I got the opportunity by his management. They said, if you want to work with this, if you want to play around with these lyrics, do it. So the first rule I did was I wasn't going to touch any of his words because I wasn't going to add or take away, because I'm not going to start editing Bob Dylan. But I wanted to give it music. I wanted to turn his poem into my song. Yeah. And I spent like 2 or 3 hours hunched over my guitar, and everything I did just sounded like a really bad Bob Dylan song. And it was my wife who was like, stop it. Don't be the guy that butchers Bob Dylan. I can't allow this to happen. She said, put the guitar down, maybe try the piano, and just make it your own. Stop looking at them like Bob's words. So I did move one line, and I decided to make one of these lines, because he writes with a catchphrase rather than a chorus, and I decided to make that catchphrase a chorus. Suddenly I was just reading this poem, and the lyric touchy situation came up, and as I said touchy, I sort of touched the piano with this sort of staccato touchy sound, and it suddenly was like, oh, okay. It was bizarre. His words suddenly just became my own song. And so we did it. They okayed it. He had to okay it. And now the proudest thing in my life is I get to look at the credits on my album and it says Jack Savoretti B. Dylan.
Oh, that is amazing, isn't it?
It's so cool.
And Kylie Minogue, different part of the spectrum now. But what was that like?
This is probably one of the only albums in the world where you will be able to hear a song written by Bob Dylan and a song written by Kylie Minogue. I mean, so that in itself is something I'm very proud of. Yeah, we wrote it in sort of the space of 2 or 3 hours. It was magic in the studio. I got to see Kylie Minogue in the studio, which is something I'm so honored to have witnessed, because everybody can see her on stage. She's up there with the legends. But in the studio, I was so surprised and so impressed with what an absolute pro she is in the studio.
Okay, so what's it called again?
Music's Too Sad Without You.
Hey, let's hear it, shall we?
Let's hear it.
You were feeling when you played me that song, gave every word meaning, you showed me a place we belong, and we laughed and we danced and we never looked back. Nothing would get in our way, and you showed me the meaning of love and romance. With every song, music's too sad without you. Music's too sad without you.
That's Jack Savoretti and Kylie Minogue.
I know, it still blows my mind, man. It's still crazy.
What's the biggest pinch me moment you've had in your career? Because you've had quite a few highlights.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can really narrow it down. I've got to say, this #1 album was something that really shocked me. It was funny. I was told it was Friday morning, you get the sort of the results, let's say, which I hate this because I hate the competitive nature of the music industry. It's why I stopped doing sports, but it actually, you get really into it. Yeah. It's quite annoying. I was like a stockbroker for a week. People asking about numbers and charts. It was terrible.
You only get into it when you've got a chance of winning, though, Jack.
100%. I've never cared because I've never had a chance, but this was really painful. But they told me the news. Gemma from my record label from BMG phoned me on Friday morning, and I was boarding a plane from Italy, from Milan, flying back to London. And she phoned me and she was like, look, it looks like you've gone and done it, so I just want to congratulate you on your first #1 record. And I was, thank you, and it was very like that. And I hang up because the stewardess told me I had to hang up, and suddenly I was sat on a flight for 2 hours alone. No friends, no family, just surrounded by strangers. And I just had the most intense wave of emotions. It suddenly kind of struck me what we just actually pulled off, because I feel like we really pulled it off. It's something, you know, we kind of hijacked the industry for a while.
How'd you get time to write? Did you write on tour then, obviously?
It's not always easy. No, I can't write on tour. I really can't. I don't get it done. I have too bad of an attention span that I sort of get distracted by other things. And nowadays touring is so demanding because there's so much stuff you've got to do on tour, which I'm not complaining.
You've got to talk to me and stuff like that.
You've got to do promo, and now because of social media, like your life is completely documented. You're pretty much living a live TV show. It's like being in a reality TV show a lot of the time, which I love, and it does connect you, but it does get quite isolating. It is quite lonely. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's bizarre because you have this incredibly bonding camaraderie with your band and your crew. You get very close. I mean, it's like living on a submarine. I don't know if you've ever been on a tour bus, but you become like this kind of submarine crew. You go through a lot of stuff in the space of 1 month or 2 months, traveling throughout Europe and seeing different situations. And also you're emotionally very jacked up because every night you're sort of really tapping into your most vulnerable state when you're performing.
It's a bit like being in Apocalypse Now, you know, when they're on the boat. Don't get off the boat, don't get off the boat.
100%.
Don't get off the bus, don't get off the bus. I've spent months on a tour bus and used it as my dressing room as well. I've not gone backstage to the dressing room. I've got ready on the bus, straight onto the stage, back on the bus
100%. You get very attached to this place.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to the backstages because you're like, no, I'm going to go back into my cocoon, back into the bus.
Did you get the double bed at the back?
I've never had that.
PlayStation and stuff
you know,
like that.
I've never had the double bed. I've always decided that it's good to be, you know, we're all on the same boat. However, this next tour, I've got the double bed. It's the first time. It was funny. My tour manager was like, oh, I think you should explain that to the guys. I was like, I'm not explaining this to the guys. I've been touring for 12 years.
I'm number one, don't you
number
know?
one.
Isn't it? You've changed, Jack Savoretti. You've changed.
That's exactly what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to get that. I'm a diva now.
Listen, it's all splendid because like 4 years ago, you kind of turned your back on the music business, didn't you?
I was done.
Why?
I was just really disillusioned by it. I was kind of frustrated. It wasn't working. And then I realized the solution was actually right in front of me. It was, well, listen, if you want to go play music and play your songs to people, go and play music and play songs to people.
Yeah.
And that meant hitting the road.
Yeah.
And, you know, 30 people turned into 50, 50 people turned into 100, 100 turned into 500, and the next thing you know, you're playing in a proper theater with 1,000 people, and it was like, okay, something's happening.
Did you ever think you'd go from 30 strangers to 40 strangers to 50 strangers to Wembley Arena in May?
You know what? If I'm honest, no, I didn't. I mean, no, I've really always looked forward. I always look for what's the next thing we can do. But I've always looked for very gradual. Mm-hmm. This does feel like quite a big jump. But it's something, again, like the same thing with the #1 album. It's such a great thing to give my crew and my band.
Yeah, we're going to Wembley, boys, but I'm going on the double bed.
On my waterbed in the top. My king-size waterbed.
Yeah, I mean, hot tub.
Next year, that's next year.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This has been great fun.
Oh, good on you. And good luck with the tour.
Thank you
How do
very
people
much.
find out about the tour?
You can go on jacksavoretti.com and you can see there, follow all our socials.
Sits in the single. What's it called?
Love is on the line.
Love is on the line. Should we play it?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
When the same mistakes are made over and over and over again. Love is on the line, jealousy fades, and we no longer look back when walking away. I know we still believe in love, I can't believe we're getting up. Oh, I wish that we were strong enough to remember how we were before we tried. Oh, the night is never long enough to forget about the lonely nights we cried when our love was on the line. I wish that we were strong enough to remember how we were before we tried. Oh, the night is never long enough to forget about the lonely nights we cried.
Jack Savoretti.
Can't believe it, baby.
Love is on the line.
Believe it's true.
A lot of Jack love out there.
Baby, I can't believe it's
Just a top bloke, though. Craig, loving the interview with Jack Savoretti. One of my favourite tunes is one of his earlier ones, Dreamers, says Jim, in Birmingham. Hi, Craig. Please say hi to Jack Savoretti for me. I'm one of his biggest fans. I've previously seen him in Manchester and Nottingham, and I'm off to see him in Venice later this month with my husband to celebrate our 50th birthdays. We love his music so much. I'm also taking my girlfriends to see him in Sherwood Forest in the summer. Loving his latest album, love Sally Ann in Barrow-on-Trent. Craig asked Jack to come to Camper Corlin with you. Can't, he's gone. Please, we saw you last year, and Jack at his album launch in Leeds. What a Thursday evening that would be, says Helen in Bradford. And hi, Craig, great show. Is Jack going to do a James Bond theme? I should have asked, but I didn't. He is perfect for it. From Dan Angus in Wrexham.